And the federal government says it is intensifying efforts to reposition Nigeria's economy with an ambitious target of achieving a $1 trillion GDP by the year 2030. Now, this vision forms part of President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, which places emphasis on sustainable growth, job creation, and economic diversification. Now, the president also reaffirmed government's commitment to policies that will unlock the country's full economic potential. He explained that the roadmap focuses on key sectors including agriculture, manufacturing, digital economy, energy, and infrastructure, while also strengthening fiscal discipline, attracting foreign investment, and promoting local enterprise.
The administration believes that by harnessing Nigeria's youthful population, expanding trade opportunities, and improving ease of doing business, the nation can significantly increase productivity and competitiveness on the global stage. Economic experts, however, caution that achieving this target will require bold reforms, strong political will, and improved security to foster investor confidence. With less than a decade to 2030, Nigerians are watching closely to see if the government's renewed hope agenda will translate from policy promises into tangible economic transformation. Only time will tell if this vision of a $1 trillion economy becomes a reality. But one thing is certain: Nigeria's economic future remains a subject of both optimism and intense debate. Ayobami Oyalowo is the Development Economics and the Executive Director, Finance and Administration, Ogun Osun River Basin Development Authority, and he joins us live here in the studio this morning. It's good to have you in our studio.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
You're welcome. Well, let's move on to the focus of the day, which is the target for a $1 trillion economy by 2030. That sounds ambitious. What concrete indicators suggest that Nigeria is truly on the recovery path?
Oh, thank you very much. Your question is very tricky. However, if you listen to the DG of the World Trade Organization yesterday, she said something that is very key, that the economy is now stable. That means we have achieved a relatively stable macroeconomics as it is now. Our growth rate is about 3.0, 3.4 thereabouts, so which is positive. However, to achieve a $1 trillion economy is not a policy pronunciation matter. There must be very serious work that will go into such achievement if we must achieve it. It's just 5 years. In fact, you said a decade. It's not a decade. It's just, we're already in 2025 and we're almost at the end of 2025. Before, in another 2 weeks, we are into the Ember months. And that means we are almost out of 2025. So we have just 4 years to make that leap if we must do it. Yes, it is achievable, but it is not a tea party. What do I mean? First and foremost, we must do one thing first. We must feed Nigerians. In terms of agriculture, we are not doing what we ought to do yet. We have to get the critical aspect of our economy working, agriculture and the small and medium scale enterprises. Now, to grow an economy, yes, you will be happy if you have the Dangote, you have this other man. We have 2 billionaires in this oil. The other one in cement.
The Boa.
Sir?
The Boa guy.
Yeah, the Boa. You have the Dangote, the Boa. Thank you very much. But beyond those ones, you need the small and medium scale enterprise, because those are the ones that will bring in the critical mass. Do you understand? You have to create small, you have to put money in the hand of the smaller people. As it is right now, we are almost out of what you call the middle class. It's a challenge. I was listening to a program just before we came in on housing in Lagos. Unfortunately, it's not just Lagos. The same problem in Abuja. Now, poor people practically are being driven away from the city center Now, even the suburbs are becoming equally difficult for poor people to live in. So we must provide all this in terms of housing, food, and shelter. If you provide shelter for people and they are fed, then we can now begin to do the next stage, which is consumption to production. You see, you can't build an economy when you don't produce. Almost everything we do, or we use, or we depend on, or we consume, is imported. So we have to learn to look at how we become a productive economy. And until you are able to produce, you will not get your currency to be where it should be. Because right now, yes, we have stabilized the naira. I'm very happy with what the CBN is doing, is doing in terms of currency stabilization. But beyond stabilizing the currency, the true value of the naira for me is still not where it is. The naira should be a bit stronger than it currently is, so that you can now say, okay, the economy is stable, and then you are selling more than you are buying. That I'm trying to use the very simple language, because if you start talking of importer, because we import too many things and we export too little things.
Okay.
So if you want to grow such an economy that would be 1 trillion, you have to do less importation. You have to do more of developing your own economy. Currently, right now, we are like a raw material economy. What do I mean? You plant cocoa, you plant this. What are you doing? You are exporting it. You're not adding value to any of these things. At this stage, we should be able to, most of our agriculture, because many times people sit here and we say agric, which is good. But beyond the production of the crops, what do we do?
Okay, now, what do we do? And that is why the next question I want to ask. We stabilize the economy, and one critical mass that helps the growth of every economy is the small and medium-scale businesses.
Which I've said earlier.
Now, what are those specific things that we need to begin to do? Because she said, Dokunjoela said, we now need to begin to grow the economy.
Yeah.
To grow the economy, how do we handle the small and medium-scale enterprises beyond just policy issues?
Yeah, beyond the policy issue, we have to, like I was saying, let's look at agriculture, for instance. Just this year, if you follow the trend, you find out that anybody who grew cocoa this time has made, if he's not a millionaire already, he's close to one. Because just a ton of cocoa was going for as high as 300 and something million in naira. Now, but it is not good enough. What do I mean? There was a year when cocoa cocoa boom too happened that time. Now, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire then were the leader in cocoa. But guess what happened? Whatever they made as a country was 1/10 of what Netherlands made from adding value to buying those raw cocoa and then selling it back to us. Now, this is it. You look at what is your comparative advantage in terms of crop. What do we really want to face? Now, when we face it, we must get to the point where instead of exporting this raw agricultural product, we should be able to, at home, add value. What do I mean? Mechanize these things. Bring in industries that will take whatever raw material this produce and turn them into finished good here. If we can get involved in that entire value chain, then you are beginning to become a productive economy. Rather than sell cocoa, you sell I don't want to call any beverage name, but you sell beverages. You sell chocolate. You get my point. Rather than sell raw cassava, you bring it out. You are able to make starch. You're able to make some other things that these things produce.
Now, before we went on the break, you spoke about the country looking inward, developing all the resources that we have at home so that we get the most value from it. But don't you think that we'll be speaking a bit detached from reality? Because if you look at the SMEs right now, if you one of their major will I call it problem now is access to credit, to funds, of course, and they have this high interest rates and all of that. Don't you think these are issues that we should resolve first before also considering these other parts that you've raised?
Those are the policy part of the issues. Those are the areas where you can say the government can come in and work alongside the banks. I believe why we have such a high interest rate currently is also partially due to the high inflation that we suffered a few years back, that is just that has just plateaued now. So I believe now that inflation has plateaued, if it goes down consistently in the next 1 year, then there's a fat chance that CBN is going to drop the rate. When they drop the rate, then, but beyond that, I also expect that the BOIs of this world, the development banks of Nigeria, the Bank of Industries and so on, should be able to come in to partner with small businesses so that they can give interest at more friendly rates to those that will borrow. Because clearly, I agree with you, to do business at an interest rate of about 30% is not going to help anybody. The kind of business you will do at that rate has to be something I don't want to mention on air. It's going to be too difficult to pay back your loan. Yes, government and some other government-funded or backed banks. For instance, in the agricultural sector, I know the government has just recapitalized the Bank of Agriculture or something to that nature, and I know the BOI is there, and then I also know we have the Development Bank of Nigeria. So those are areas where the government should strengthen. When you strengthen those access to credit and capital, I agree with you, clearly it's going to help in terms of helping to fund this small and medium scale enterprise. I was trying to talk about lithium, because I remember just about a few years ago, we discovered that we have a huge lithium deposit in Nasarawa State here. So what I'm also looking at, which is a good idea, I remember I think the minister said something like, we're not going to export it, which I think is good. Rather than export it, two things are happening right now in the world. The world is going solar in terms of energy and power, and then the world is also going clean energy in terms of vehicles. So it's better will you bring these industries to Nigeria, let them come and establish their production facilities here in Nigeria. That way, you add value to the lithium, you extract maximum value. You cannot export these batteries, whether within Nigeria or outside Nigeria, whether Africa. That way, you are able to bring in value. Because the only way you can grow your economy is to grow your GDP. And as you grow your GDP, there must be production consistently going on in your economy. So I think the government is on the right path. What I want to see is this action, these words, back with action. When we say these are the things we can produce in Nigeria, you always first think of how do we add value to this so that we can bring in the end product right here on our soil, rather than export these things to some countries at some rate that you don't even determine. You and I know that, for instance, no matter how much oil we produce today, we do not determine the price. And the same thing with, if you produce gold, you produce mercury, you produce any of these materials, some people sit somewhere there in Wall Street and determine the price. So instead of exporting your goods as raw materials, the thing I want the government to do is let us see how we can attract, and we have very fine ideas in Nigeria. I know many of these startups are being given tax breaks, given so many other incentives. So we need to push this further. The government needs to have a system where you tell, look, rather than produce your cars and come and sell it in Nigeria, and then you have to pay very high interest rate at the port, why not do what is done in other countries? I remember when I last visited South Africa, I was talking to people and I realized something that was strange. A lot of people were driving brand new cars, they were not driving Tokubo cars. And then I asked them, how are you able to finance these cars? You know what shocked me? The price of a brand new, for instance, Mercedes-Benz then was cheaper than the price of a Tokubo Mercedes-Benz in Nigeria comparatively. What happened? They had Benz come to produce their Benz in South Africa. So you look at the things that Nigerians consume, it can be done. Ask the CBN, sit down. What are those things we import more often? We can talk to the producers of these things. Produce in Nigeria, we're going to give you very fine incentives in terms of tax and all these things, so that you see what Trump is doing. You might say the man is crazy, you might say whatever you want to say, but he's telling Apple, you can't go produce in India and come and sell in my country. If you can't produce in America, then he's going to tax you to death. So we need to get to that point where everything, if not most things, if not everything, at least most things. I also always remember what happened with the South Korean economy. They had this saying, I can't remember how it is said in Korea, but what he said was, whatever we cannot produce, then we don't need to consume.
Okay, let's look at it this other way. Is it possible in trying to grow our GDP, our local production, that government streamline its focus? You just talked about the lithium deposit in here, that we can also begin to attract companies to come in and invest in lithium aspect. Now, in agriculture also, we talk about so many, we have potential in so many agricultural products, but we do not have that kind of a comparative advantage when it comes to comparing with other.
No, that's why I talked about comparative advantage. What you need to do is look at which one is your strength that we can produce more. Then let's focus on it as our main goal. We can't take 20 crops at the same time. We will look at maybe 5, 6, 7 and say, look at these crops. We will, you remember those days, the old Bende, now Delta, and they had the comparative advantage in rubber production. That was why you had Michelin and so all of them, they were in Edo that time, not Edo of now. I'm talking when it was Bende State. So those are the things. We had the Excite battery in Ibadan. You remember that? So these are things we can bring back. So we look at areas where you have, this is our comparative advantage. We can produce this better than any other country. Then that is why I also said, let the government sit down with the CBN. What are the things Nigeria need foreign exchange more for, that we import the more? Then look at the ones we can streamline and say, look, this and this and this, tick it off. We can produce them in Nigeria. I was in Russia some times back, and what I learned there was that the cost of buying any Russian produced good is far cheaper than buying anything that you imported to Russia. So they were protecting their economy. You see, they will tell you free market, but everybody is doing protectionism. You are just, they make you a dumping ground and tell you, come and sign some agreement, you're going to have free market. There's no free market anywhere. Trump is telling us right now that there's no free market. So we cannot open our economy and make ourselves a dumping ground. So to grow your economy, you must have comparative advantages, like I said. When you get those ones that are comparative advantage, you know, say this and this, we won't let you bring it in. And if you bring it in, we're going to tax you at such a rate that people won't be able to afford it. So you have comparative ones that you produce in Nigeria so that Nigerians can say, look, these are the ones we do. And when you do that, you are not only creating jobs, you are creating a very strong microeconomic system, because those companies will employ people, they will pay taxes, the government will be funded for that, Nigerians will have more money in their pocket. Right. Rather than changing all your, whatever you earn into dollars to go and import nonsense at home, why not produce most of these things and make your economy stronger? That way, we can now begin to talk about a $1 trillion economy.
Now, speaking about attracting investment, President Tinubu is leaving for Japan and Brazil today, and I believe this trip is to attract investments. But a lot of Nigerians have criticized these constant trips by the president. They're asking the question, how many of these trips have yielded positive results that we can see? How many have translated to jobs? How many have translated to improved economies? What do you think? What is your stand on the president's constant trips?
Well, I know sometimes when they come back, they tell us the things they have signed and stuff. And clearly, I will always say you don't get results immediately when these things happen. It takes a while to get results. But be that as it may, a president who wants to attract investment will not sit in his room. He has to speak to people. So I really don't see any big deal in his trip. What I just want to see is, like you said, I want to see it translate to reality. However, my own feeling still is that we'll get more at home than from outside. And what do I mean? When you say this investors, most of them are portfolio investors, and we need to do beyond portfolio investment. If we really want to grow the economy, we can grow the finance aspect and people will make money and everybody's happy, but we are not growing any economy. What we need to grow right now is a development economy that develops, that produces a productive economy. If we are able to attract bigger investment, local investors will even do better if there is finances. Today, we have been shouting investment. Until the Dangote, the Boas and Co. invested in our refinery, we never got anything. It was always one story or the other. Today, you can tell the good. I just read today as I came into your studio that Dangote has crashed the price of gas to $7.39 per kilogram of gas or something. So, which means the price of gas is going to go down again. I mean, cooking gas is what I'm talking about. So, we need to look more into investors that will create a production economy beyond just the portfolio investors who come in to invest, because of course it's more in their countries. If they put in their money, what you get is 1 digit. It's only in Nigeria you can put in money somewhere and you get 2 digits in terms of your returns. So we need to, I don't see any problem with what the government is doing, because it needs to, I know in terms of livestock, Brazil is one of the best countries in livestock. So probably we are looking at production in agriculture for the livestock part, because we've created the Ministry of Livestock and I really have not seen anything they are doing there. Probably the president has noticed that, probably he wants to work on livestock. I don't know, because nobody has told us the itinerary. So there's no crime in having to do this traveling, but we want to see it translate into concrete investment opportunities, such that, like I said, rather than export raw materials, we want to be able to export finished goods to foreign or even neighboring countries. That way you attract. Now, you know, we are signing to the AFTA. That's the AFTA, the African whatever we signed into. If we are going to benefit from that, we have to be a production economy. When we produce, that is when we can benefit from that agreement that we have signed, because the goods that will be moved around must be produced at least to a certain percentage at home here. Exactly. That way you can get rebates in terms of whatever you say. So I think there's no crime in traveling by the president. I think what we need to focus more, if he travels as he's traveling, is people who will actually come in, create industries here in Nigeria. The things that Nigerians buy and bring home, let it be produced here on our soil. That way we employ our youth. We create a transfer of technology and knowledge, and then we can have an economy that can feed its people, that can stand on its feet. I was trying to use an example of what the Koreans did then. They said, whatever we cannot produce, then we do not need. And that was what brought about the Daewoo's of this world, the Hyundais of this world, the LG of this world. Today, everybody, even if you go to America, people are using LG, they are using Hyundai cars, they are using Daewoo cars. I mean, those are the things that we need to look at. Look inward. When they started producing those things, I remember the Lucky Go Star TV, nobody was buying. They went back, rebrand, and today they are back as LG.
All right.
Everybody in the world uses those technology.
Unfortunately, our time is up, but I must say I enjoyed the conversation this morning. It's a fine way to end our week. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.